My Tinder match took me to an underground restaurant for our first date. I think I'm lucky to be alive. Spooktober. A left down Clinton Ave. 5 blocks, then a right on Grand. 6 blocks, and where the hell were we? We'd left a part of the city I knew and had arrived in a bleak, run-down neighborhood with boarded houses and abandoned storefronts. A group of men standing on a corner watched us as we made another turn. "So, this is supposed to be like an ultra-secret spot or something?" I asked Logan. "Yeah," he replied, glancing over while stopped at a red light. "It's an underground thing. My coworker Roger wouldn't shut up about it. Apparently, it's the most authentic French cuisine you can get in the city. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to be out in the murder district." Logan laughed, and I couldn't help but stop and admire him. That smile, that jawline. It was enough to make me melt. Choice of venue for our first date aside, I was over the freaking moon. Logan was perfect, and I considered it to be a low-key miracle that we actually found each other on Tinder. Let's just check it out. If it seems too sketch, we can go somewhere else. McDonald's should have plenty of open tables. Very funny, I said. All right, but if I'm axe murdered, I will haunt your ass. I wouldn't expect any less from you, Veronica. Hey, there it is. I looked all over, searching for something that even resembled a restaurant. Where? I just see a bunch of dilapidated buildings. That graffiti, right there. He pointed his finger over the steering wheel, then pulled over to the curb to park. Roger said that once we saw the graffiti of a sheep, we should stop. The restaurant is down the alley there. Logan turned off the ignition and exited his silver Impala. He ran around to the other side and opened my door, lending his hand to assist me out. My heart fluttered in my chest even as my shoe crunched onto the shattered remains of a beer bottle on the curb. The graffiti wasn't anything special, but it was unmistakably a sheep, with X's over the eyes and a tongue lolling cartoonishly from its mouth. It made me uncomfortable, but I let Logan take my hand and lead me into the alley anyway. Third door on the left, I think. He stopped in front of a metal door that bore a dirty piece of paper as a sign. Lagno Perdue, I read. Sounds French. This must be it then. He grinned at me, then knocked rhythmically on the door. Shave and a haircut. A few seconds later, there was a quick response knock. 2 bits. We waited for a moment, but no one let us in. Logan raised an eyebrow at me and tried the knob himself. The door cracked open. Logan peeked in, shrugged back at me, and swung the door wide. Inside was a curious sight. A single dining table and a small empty space that may have been a storage room or office at one point. The table was dressed with a red tablecloth and was properly set for 2, complete with understated place settings and a candelabra centerpiece. It would have been quite elegant, if not for the flickering fluorescent overhead and the shabby look of the room itself. On the far side of the room was a swinging door with a small porthole window, the kind you see in a restaurant, but the room on the other side was lit poorly, and I couldn't make anything out. I supposed it was a kitchen, though I didn't hear any of the sounds you might expect from one. In fact, it was unnervingly quiet. "There's no one here," I whispered as we continued to stand in the doorway. "Maybe we should just leave." "Well, someone knocked, right? They'll probably be back in a moment," Logan reassured me. "Should we at least see what's on the menu?" "Sure," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant, and went to sit at the table. Next to the place settings were single-page menus listing the courses of our meal. I read through it and actually found myself a little excited. French onion soup, beef bourguignon, berry galette for dessert, dear Lord, I'm drooling. "Sounds amazing," Logan said. "The wine list isn't bad either. I just wonder." He craned his neck, peering at the window of the swinging door. "Maybe I ought to just check." He rose from the table. "Don't go far," I pleaded. Logan nodded back at me before pushing through the door. I sat for several minutes on my own, straining to hear anything from the other side. But all I heard was the incessant buzzing of the fluorescent. The seconds stretched on uncomfortably as I waited. I was debating going to look for myself when the door finally swung back in. A man had entered, but it wasn't Logan. He didn't appear to be a waiter or cook either, just some older guy with a creepy smile and thinning hair. There was something really off about him. I realized with a skipped heartbeat that he was wearing the same outfit as Logan, from his blue flannel shirt down to his black slip-on loafers. The clothes didn't seem to fit him quite right, hanging loose in the areas where Logan was muscular. He approached the table and sat across from me, sighing with unnerving satisfaction. "Sorry about the wait, Veronica. Did I mention how gorgeous you look tonight?" he asked, leaning in over folded hands. "Who are you?" I asked tentatively. "Do you work here?" The man laughed unpleasantly. "I'm your date, of course. I'm Logan." No, you're fucking not. Where is he? Are you wearing his clothes?" I began to stand up, but the man's arm shot across the table. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me with excessive force, causing the table to dig painfully into my ribs. What the hell? Get off of me. Dinner is ready, the man said, his face close to mine. Why don't you just relax? Let's have a nice conversation, enjoy our meal, and see where the night takes us. He leaned in closer, pressing his nose into my hair and sniffing obscenely. That was enough for me. I pushed back hard, wrenching my arm free. With a yell, I slapped the guy as hard as I could. I didn't waste time to catch his reaction, scrambling for the door to the alley. As I lunged for where I expected the door handle to be, my fingers only scraped against a flat metal circle. There was no handle on this side. Panicked, I tried to dig my fingers into the crack of the door and pull it open, but of course it wouldn't budge. A moment later, the man took me firmly by the shoulders and spun me around. I've paid for a nice date, and that is what I will get, the man snarled. Sit down, he forced me into the chair. Where is Logan? I asked, trying my best not to break down completely. Quit asking about Logan, the man yelled, slamming a fist on the table and causing the place settings to rattle. Why do women always change the subject? Why can't they just focus on the man in front of them? I'm trying to treat you to the time of your life, and you just have to go and ruin it, don't you? The man was panting as his tirade ended. I couldn't seem to open my mouth to reply. I was in total shock. Now, stay right there, and I'll get the soup. Don't make me regret leaving you by yourself. He disappeared through the other door momentarily, then returned, placing bowls of soup atop the porcelain charger plates already in front of us. The alluring smell of French onion made me salivate despite myself. Well, if we're going to have dinner, would you at least tell me your name? I asked, picking up my spoon and willing my hand not to shake. I dipped it into my soup and brought up a spoonful to my lips to test the temperature. It was piping hot. Just call me Logan, he growled. I want you to treat me like you would that pretty fuckboy. What exactly do you want from me? Logan, how can I make our date perfect? Not. Logan's eyes softened a little. I want to talk, that's all. Have a nice time. Then maybe we can do some of the things you texted the other Logan about. I shuddered. Was this creep bluffing, or did he actually know something about my private messages with Logan? What the hell had happened in the few minutes I was alone? Sure, I said, stirring the soup and giving him as sultry of a look as I could manage. Maybe we can. A pleased expression spread over not Logan's face, and he finally diverted his attention to his soup. I seized the moment to throw my own bowl into his face. He screamed, wiping the steaming liquid from his eyes and trying to rise instead, overturning his chair. He sprawled to the ground, and I grabbed the surprisingly heavy charger plate. I stood over the man and smashed it on his face, where it shattered and left a long gash across his forehead. He didn't stir. I ran into the other room. Logan! I cried, looking around frantically. Logan, where are you? It looked like it had once been a kitchen after all, but now the room contained only a few stainless steel prep tables and empty spaces where appliances used to be. Strewn on a table nearby were some brown paper takeout bags and dishes in the process of being plated. I wasn't exactly surprised to find that no actual cooking had taken place. I searched the kitchen, calling for Logan and looking for any sign of him. I found nothing, no sign of struggle or hint that he'd even been there. When I'd exhausted all my options, I ran to the front of the house. It was completely empty, aside from some broken pieces of furniture and plenty of dust. The storefront windows were lined with black plastic sheeting. Where the hell was Logan? I heard a muted groan from behind me, and coldness crept over my whole body. I turned to find not. Logan slumped in the doorway of the kitchen, clutching his head. Blood gushed down his face. You uppity whore, he spat, a stream of saliva dripping from his chin. You're just like the rest. Where's Logan? I demanded. What did you do with him? The man grinned wildly and took a lurching step forward. I'm right here, honey. Why don't you come? Give me a kiss. Fuck you, I hissed, then turned and bolted for the front door. I unlocked it and burst forth into the gathering dusk, screaming for help. I definitely did the neighborhood a disservice with my initial impression of it. A couple of kind strangers I happened across came to my aid almost immediately, helping me get to a safe space where I contacted the police. Unfortunately, my report was not exactly prioritized. They seemed to think that I was being dramatic, maybe even falsifying my story over a bad first date or something. When I inquired about the case a few days later, they claimed that they couldn't find the building I had described. There was no graffiti of a sheep in the general area I directed them to, and definitely no stranded silver impala. I called Logan, messaged him, and never got any response. His Tinder profile had been deleted. I had no idea if he was dead or not, and on some level, I think I began to wonder if he'd ever existed at all. Frustrated and sick with worry, I decided to do my own bit of detective work and called the car dealership where Logan told me he worked. I got an answer after a couple of rings. Naaman's Auto. This is Roger. How can I help you? I blinked, my brain working out where I'd heard that name before. Roger. Wasn't that the coworker who had told Logan about the restaurant in the first place? Hi, Roger, I stammered. I'm a friend of Logan Pierce's. I haven't heard from him lately and was getting a little concerned. I wanted to check if anyone had seen him in the past couple of days. There was a pause on the other end. Logan, yes, Roger responded, lowering his voice. Unfortunately, he quit and moved away quite suddenly. Apparently, he'd come into a bit of money and felt that itch for greener pastures. But I can still be your Logan, Veronica. He breathed heavily into the phone. How about a second date? No hard feelings about the last one. Besides, I'm still waiting for that kiss.